Do I think that science has moved past racism? I think overwhelmingly, yes, it has. But the reason I brought that up is to not focus on race, but to simply point out that science, the facts have to be interpreted. And usually they are interpreted through a very biased lens. Is it's kind of like a lawyer, right? Like you go to court and they present the evidence, and then you have
Yeah, my husband.
whether you're going to claim because reality is at the end of the day, you didn't conduct those experiences. You're accepting what they say.
Okay. I'm gonna. Oh, I
I
think
just
you
want to
muted.
ask him how he's defining faith again, because we already went over that, and the way you defined faith is just saying that you have a standard of evidence, right? That's gonna be no different than the way we define belief, right? So like again, you're just saying, oh, we believe in science. Okay, what's the issue with us believing in science? Right, in terms of the evidence and like the backing to it.
Well, no, like when I look at the evidence, I interpret that in a way that points to God, and you interpret that in a way that doesn't.
Yeah. So what reason do you have for it? Pointing towards God existing.
And the reason that I would point to is that when I look at all life, and I know my brother had an argument saying that life doesn't require prior life. I haven't seen a study other than that one that you mentioned where life doesn't require prior life.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Well, then let's reduce this down then as an example. Okay. What is DNA made of? Just if you don't know, that's fine. I'm not trying to get you right there. I'm just asking. What is DNA made of?
Proteins,
No.
amino
It's made of
acids.
nucleotides. It's made of nucleotides. Proteins are much larger than DNA is. It's made of nucleotides. Okay. Nucleotides are made of organic compounds, right? Okay. So you go from so like DNA has deoxyribose. Okay, so deoxyribose is the nucleotide, as an example. Okay, you go further down. What is deoxyribose made of? Deoxyribose is made of inorganic compounds. It's made of sugar. It's made of, and a sugar is an inorganic compound. These inorganic compounds become more complex over time, and by the laws of nature, by the laws of physics and laws of chemistry, they naturally coalesce and become more complex. That leads in a stepwise pattern up to complexity and to more complexity, and eventually you get the building blocks of RNA, then DNA, and then you get the first cellular life, which is non-conscious, which is purely automatic. It's very, very basic, and then that becomes more complex through the process of natural selection, and then all the way up over 3.5 billion years to modern humans.
Last minute.
That's how the process works. Now, we don't know, and I grant you this, we don't know at very specific steps how it happens.
No one is here today.
What we do know is these certain processes. And I just described to you what those processes are. Okay? From the very
I think
inorganic,
that's
stepwise up to the organic.
I think that's a very elaborate theory.
No, it's not a
But
theory. I didn't. No, it's not a theory. It's a I didn't.
so you're saying that's law.
No, friend. There's hypothesis, theory, and law. Law is a constant of nature. It's the highest form of scientific rules, right? A theory is just slightly below that, and that's a generalized description of a physical phenomena based on solid evidence and observation. A hypothesis is an educated guess that one tries to make to lead to a theory over time.
So you're
So I'm
saying
not
you're
making.
certain that things happen that way.
No, I'm not certain. I never said that I was certain. There's nothing in this world that I believe. This is my own epistemic, type of philosophy. I don't believe that we can be certain about
So if you're
anything,
not certain,
like
then it's an act of
100%.
faith.
No, it's not faith because I have evidence.
I
I
love
have
y'all, man.
evidence.
Y'all be easy, bro.
No,
I
I
love
have
y'all,
evidence
man.
to
Thanks
back
for
up
having me
my
on,
claims.
bro.
I can back up my claims with hundreds of
That was
years
just like an
of peer-reviewed
anti-intellectual
study and
dogma.
data.
So you just saying that like, oh, you're not certain, therefore it's faith, bro. That's just gonna be extremely weird to say, right? We're not certain about almost anything. Do you have a critique of solipsism? You're not certain either.
Because you can be 99.999% certain that there's a God, but that 0.001% still does not make you certain. And that's the fact of the matter is. It's like for example, I'm an agnostic. Technically, I'm an atheist, technically. Okay? But I prefer to call myself an agnostic, but technically I'm an atheist. Okay? I am 95% certain that there's probably not a God, at least the God of the Bible and the God of the Quran and everything. But there's 5% of me that is not really all that sure. I don't really know. Okay, and the same thing goes with evolution. I am 99% sure that the theory of evolution as we know it today is true in what it describes. But there's 1% of me that I'm not really that sure about, and maybe I could be wrong. But that's how science works. Science is made to be disproven because science is competitive and it's beautiful, and over time we either disprove or we prove, and then we move on.
I
And
understand, brother, and don't. I understand, brother, and don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not absolutely certain that God exists, and I have a lot of doubt, man. Believe me, I have a lot of doubt. I actually think certainty is the biggest threat to faith because a lot of people have been killed in the name of Christianity and Islam. That being said, I just think theism is a better option than atheism. That's all I'm saying. I respect
Yeah,
you guys. No
yeah. So we can run through
disrespect.
some of the arguments. I would like to do so with you if you're open to it.
I'll be quiet for a while so you can talk.
Yeah. So like have you heard of the logical problem of evil?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So do you think that God has free will?
Yes, I do.
Is God all knowing, all powerful, all good?
Yes, he is.
Hard point.
Can God do evil?
No.
Okay, so God has free will but can't do evil.
That is correct.
Okay. So is it possible for God to create humans in which have free will?
We've taken the lead.
I don't believe that's possible
It's not
The
possible.
lead is
Why not?
ours. Enemy personnel
because
at the hard
God,
point.
even though God can create perfect beings, he's not going to create other gods that are immutable.
Yeah. So God can't create humans that can have free will but choose not to do evil because he can't create other quote unquote perfect beings. So a perfect being can't create perfect beings.
Confirming next hard point. Stand by.
Well, he did create perfect beings, but he didn't create them immutable.
Hard point compromised.
Okay, so he didn't
Secure
create
the
them.
area.
That's
Location updated. Capture the hard point. Enemy
No, he
soldiers.
created them perfect, but he didn't create them immutable. In other words,
what
they
does
can
what does
fall
immutable
from
mean?
perfection.
Fast hands online.
Yeah, so that means that they were not perfect. Because that's a flaw, right? You're saying it's not a flaw.
Well, no, that's not a flaw. Like, for instance, if I have a perfect painting and then I throw paint, it's flawed, that perfect painting.
Yeah, so if you have a painting that is like 99% good, right? But then 1% of it, if say that gets a little bit like too dry, and if it gets too dry, then it will just like go on fire, burn all up. Say that happened, right? Did you make a perfect painting?
Locating the next hard point. Get ready.
Yes, he did. And here's what I think you're getting at, if I can just say.
Target area
By the way, when I'm
updated.
saying painting, I'm
Move
not
to
just
the hard
referring to the
point.
drawing. I'm referring to like the backdrop as well, what it's on. Because again, they're the one that made that part too. It's not just like them drawing.
Well, I don't think you can compare a painting to creatures who are moral and who have self-awareness.
Enemy personnel at the hard point.
Yeah, what's gonna be the distinction in terms of it and whether or not being together?
Well, free will is really the issue here. Like, God has to create a world in where there's free will and there's consequences.
Yeah, sure, but you already told me that God is has free will and can't do evil. So if God has free will and can't do evil, well then if humans have free will and can't do evil, they still have free will, right? There's no contradiction there, because God has the same type of free will.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Secure the target
Okay,
area.
so if that's the case, then you're saying it's logically possible for God to create humans with free will, but they
Inside
can't
the
sin.
perimeter.
He could, but it wouldn't be optimal
Why would it not be optimal?
because we wouldn't have a logical universe.
What do you mean we wouldn't have a logical universe?
Let's say, for instance, if God created a universe where there were no consequences for the evil actions that I intended. If I wanted to push you off a building, in order for God to prevent that from happening, he would have to
No, I'm not even
suspend
talking about
gravity.
that. I'm just saying he can create humans in which can't do evil. They still have free will. You already told me that that's a condition that can happen. So they physically can't do that, right? Yeah, like for example, I'll ask you this: do you have free will in heaven?
Hardpoint compromised.
Yes,
Secure
you do.
the area.
So you have free will. Is there evil in heaven?
No.
Location updated.
Okay, so why
Capture
couldn't
the
God have just
hardpoint.
created us in heaven?
Enemy personnel at the hardpoint.
Whenever you look at the Garden of Good and Evil, the Garden of Eden, you have the tree of the knowledge of
Enemies
good and
inside the
evil.
perimeter.
And so now the purpose of us being on earth is to understand how evil is. And so when we get to heaven, we want to commit it.
The enemy
God
standing
couldn't
ground.
give us that.
Push
You know
them
how
back.
God writes like morality into our hearts.
I do. Yeah, I do. I know
Thank you for
that.
the crown. How come God couldn't write this knowledge into our hearts?
Well, he did. That's the reason why you think grape.
Okay, well then obviously, no, I'm not talking about morality here. I'm talking about what you just referenced, right? Like the knowledge, right? God can give us that knowledge, right? Without us having to experience it, because we have that knowledge about morality without having to experience that.
Stand by.
So again, what would be the distinction between these two? That means that God can do one but not the other.
Well, there's a fundamental difference between scientific knowledge and experimental knowledge. Like, for instance, you can read a book on building a car, but you don't have experience on building a car.
Oh,
No
you
switch.
mean experiential knowledge?
I'm sorry, wait, how is that relevant to what I was asking? 'Cause again, you're just saying like this can be innate knowledge. That's what I was asking.
Well, no, the knowledge of evil has to be experienced. It can't be innate.
Why not?
Because God is not evil. He can't give you something he doesn't have.
Okay, so you can't have a sense of evil, but we have a sense of morality, right? When I say that something's immoral, right, is that not me sensing evil without experience? Because remember you said that it's innate, right? So I have this innate feeling regardless if I have an experience, and I can identify evil through this innate knowledge. So I think that's wrong.
Have you ever known that something was wrong and you did it anyway?
We're getting hit hard.
Like when I did it.
Yeah.
Personnel at the hard point.
Maybe like if I like, I don't know, I'm cheating on like homework or something, like when I was in high school.
Enemies inside the perimeter.
Well, that's the point. You had an innate knowledge of evil, but then you went on to do it and you
That's
experienced.
experiential. But you're arguing that there's innate knowledge because God wrote this in your hearts. So I'm not talking about my position on the matter. I'm simply referencing your position. I'm saying that this is the entailment of your view. Right? Like, given the definitions of the terms that you believe in, right, of these attributes, right, that should entail this. That's what I'm saying.
Hard point compromised. Secure the hard point relocating. Stand by.
That's really technical. Like, I'm kind of losing you a little bit, but basically what I'm getting at is there's the experiential aspect of it, and then there's the scientific aspect of it.
And I'm asking you, what's going to be the distinction here that means that God can't give us this knowledge about evil within our hearts the same sort of way we have knowledge about evil in terms of morality within our hearts, right? One's innate knowledge, but you're saying the other one has to be experiential. And I'm saying, why so? And I'll give you a reductio, right? Do you think miscarried babies go to heaven?
I do.
Yeah, so if one is a miscarried baby, let's say at like 4 weeks, right? Never had a mind, never had any experience, but yet it still goes to heaven. Do they understand heaven?
I do believe they understand heaven. I
They
really
do,
do.
but without the experiential knowledge on earth. So again, they have no experiential knowledge, yet they still know. How can they know?
That is a excellent question, and I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so the entailment of this view is going to be that it's not experiential. It's going to be innate knowledge that God gives you. So if God can give you that innate knowledge or in heaven without having to have that experiential knowledge, all right, that's just going to indicate that all the suffering on the planet